Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Monahan. I'm a longtime Final Cut Pro editor, trainer, and I've even written a book about the subject.
And my name's Carl Soule. I work for Adobe, but I've been a longtime user of Premiere Pro.
So far we've learned a lot, but we've always started from like a project that had some clips in it. Now I know in Final Cut you have to set up the easy setup. There's a number of things you have to do. Gotchas. What I want to do is get a new Premiere Pro project going with as few gotchas as possible. So can you help me out on this one?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
Let's actually go ahead and get started here with just a new project. And of course, this first panel that comes up, I know for some people they look at this and immediately are like, what am I doing at this point?
Right, I see a lot of gray and a lot of type. I don't know what to pick.
Yeah, there's actually just a few things that you really need to worry about here. First thing, I'm just going to jump over to the second tab here called Scratch Discs, just to point out one big difference about the way Premiere Pro works with your scratch volume.
Okay.
Whenever you have to do like preview renders, or if you're going to be capturing to a location, you can set these individually, and by default they're typically set within the project. So when you create a project for Premiere, it creates a series of folders for video and audio previews for you. So one habit that I've gotten into over the years as a Premiere Pro editor has been to create a folder specifically for the project that I'm working on.
Okay.
And then within that, there's going to be the Premiere Pro project file, and then you'll see a bunch of folders that get created for, like, you know, your different preview files and whatnot.
Well, that's cool. Let me just stop you for 1 second, though. I know that in Final Cut, when I set my scratch disk, it's that scratch disk from that point on. In other words, it's not associated with the project per se. So what you're telling me is in Premiere Pro that it absolutely is associated with the project.
Yeah, you can have different locations for different projects. It is possible to have one big shared scratch disk if you want.
Right.
But kind of the preferred method, it also helps keep the project a little bit more portable. I mean, if you keep everything in one folder, if you make sure and copy your media into that folder, you can literally just pick up that folder and move it to an archive drive or something like that.
I love that. That's awesome. One other thing, while we're in this pane here, I noticed the bottom, it says Video Rendering and Playback Renderer, and I see my favorite new little word, Mercury Playback Engine. Is this where I can ensure myself that I have my Mercury Engine Playback enabled?
Yeah, it is found in the new project panel. It's also found in the project settings if you need to go in and change it later, which I can show you in just a minute here. But yeah, this is typically, if you start a project on a laptop and you're going to move it over to a desktop system, obviously the desktop systems are what are going to have access to the better performance with the GPU acceleration. And so, yeah, that's something that you want to make sure is turned on there.
So if it sees the hardware, it's automatically going to enable that hardware acceleration, correct?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. From a capture perspective, built into Premiere Pro, we've got simple DV capture if you need to go work with tape or something like that. But we also work with companies like Aja and Blackmagic. So I've got an Aja card in this system, so you can see here for capture. Instead of just having DV or HDV capture, it's actually using an Aja sequence, and we can go in and we can set that up as well.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. So I wasn't aware that we could handle like these high-end formats. Yeah. So as long as you have the card in there and all the drivers and stuff, we're good to go, right?
Yeah, make sure that you get, like in the case of Aja, to add the Premiere Pro presets, there is actually a separate download on their page. So if you go and you just get the drivers for the card, that doesn't include the Premiere Pro stuff. You want to go and get there's a separate Premiere Pro for Mac download that you want to get. You typically scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can find it.
Okay, that's normal. So let's get this thing rolling. I guess title it.
So in this case, like I said, I usually create a separate folder for this. So we'll go ahead and I'll go to my RAID, create a new folder here, and I'll just call this one Carl.
Cool.
And then we can call the project something different. We'll just call this one Carl's New Project.
Okay. Very cool.
And click OK. Now, this next panel, of course, does throw some people. Immediately Premiere Pro is asking, what type of timeline do you want to start editing? And this is basically just kind of saving you a step. It's saying, hey, we're going to create a new blank timeline for you to get started with. And so it asks you what type of timeline you want to worry about.
Okay, and like DSLR, say, something like
DSLR, you can see that there's a number of different presets built in here. And there's actually a whole methodology to creating your own presets. So you can definitely do that. What I always tell first-time users is, especially if you don't know what footage you're working with. If was this 2997 or did I record this before I did the firmware update on my 5D? Is it 30 frames per second? What am I working with today?
Oh,
you know, there's so many different options with with HD from frame rate and whatnot. So you can actually just hit cancel on this new sequence button, and it's going to open up Premiere Pro for you.
Okay.
And at this point, you'll notice that down here it just says no sequences. I don't have an open timeline.
Okay, so that's cool because in Final Cut, it gives you an automatic sequence that might not be what you want. So this is cool. It gives you no sequence, and then I guess we get to choose it from here?
Yeah, from here, I can always come in here and I can choose, use the new item button to create a new sequence from here.
Okay.
Same exact panel pops up, and I can start working from here.
Okay, what if I just want to bring some clips in, and like I know in Final Cut, I can just bring in clips and drag it into the sequence, and it'll automatically conform to that codec. Now, is there something similar here?
Yeah, there is. I can use this media browser panel to bring in footage if I want, or I can even just double-click in the project bin, and this will take me to an import setting here. So either way, the media browser gives me a way of I can actually take clips and put them in the source monitor before I've actually brought them into any projects. I'm not cluttering up my project bin with stuff I'm never going to use.
That's pretty smart.
But if I know the clips I'm working with, I can just double-click in the project bin. In this case, let me go ahead and go into my folder here. I've got a bunch of clips kind of ready to go here, so we'll go into tapeless formats. And let's say I want to just take all the clips from maybe this 5D folder here.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and say just import that folder.
All right.
And it'll bring in all those clips for me. There's the 5D folder, and I can twirl that down. I've got a bunch of clips here.
Okay.
Now, if you click on a clip, I can see up here the exact size and frame rate. It shows it in the project bin.
That's helpful.
But if I want to create a timeline sequence that's going to match this, all I have to do is take one of these clips and drag it and drop it right onto this new sequence button.
Okay.
And very similar to the way After Effects works.
Okay, okay.
So I can do that, and at this point, it's going to create a new sequence for me, and that sequence is actually going to match, all the properties are going to match whatever that clip was. And in fact, the name of the sequence does even match the name of the clip here. So you have to kind of look at this, and renaming this is simple. Just click on it.
Right, and I can divide everything up into bins. I can separate my sequences from clips into bins, just like Final Cut, I assume.
Exactly.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay, now let's say that I do have some DV footage. Do you actually have, like, I know the tape is dead, but do you have, is there a log and capture window that I could capture clips? Or
going in and doing traditional capture, we actually rely on whatever type of capture card you have in the system. So typically, in this release of Premiere Pro, if you got an Aja card or Blackmagic card, you typically use the tools that are provided there.
Oh, you capture from in the Aja tools, but if I have a DV sequence, I could probably use Premiere Pro.
Exactly.
Okay.
From here, you'll notice I believe I have these installed. So there are actually Aja presets here. So if you go in and you do, since I do have an Aja board in this system, I can go ahead and use this preset from here.
Very cool. So it looks like there's a lot of cool options here for ingesting and getting the footage in here that I need to work with. But the best thing that I like about this, I'm sure you're going to guess, is that I don't have to log and transfer this footage. I don't need to rewrap it into ProRes or what have you. And you just drag that clip right out there in the timeline and it plays back. So.
It just plays, yeah. Especially in today's world with so many different formats like AVC Intra,
that's tough.
Red,
Red.
All of these are all just supported natively. We can just take those clips, bring them right in, drag them, and drop them right on a timeline.
That's going to save me a heck of a lot of time, man.
I've got one last, I want to wrap up with just one last little trick here that we haven't gotten to yet. I'm just going to take a bunch of clips here. Let me just throw all of these on the timeline really quick. Question that I get a lot just has to do with the idea of doing like a J cut or an L cut. Premiere.
Okay.
And we didn't get to this in the last video, so I wanted to kind of just quickly touch on this here. If you do have a situation where you got to cut back the audio in a particular clip, if you're dealing with linking clips, it is possible to go through and take a clip that has audio and video linked like this, go in and unlink it. But there's actually a much quicker and easier way of doing this. If I just hold down the Option key on the keyboard, it actually creates temporarily unlinks these two files.
Oh, I see.
And this gives me the ability to, in this case, that would be more of a J-cut.
Yeah.
It gives me the ability to do that. So at this point now I could take this clip and maybe wrap it around,
I see.
Something like that, so I can get the audio mix underneath.
Well, that's an awesome tip that works just the same way in Final Cut. So that's cool. So thanks so much, Carl.
All right. Looking forward to more of these videos.
All right. Thanks for watching.